Lieutenant General PR Shankar, PVSM, AVSM, BSM retired.
Professor of Aerospace Department of IIT Chennai, General Shankar also has written the quadratic equation for Indo-Pacific.
The Indo-Pacific and the Quad as they are evolving. I'll put across a presentation to you.
Jai Hind, Namaste. I welcome you all to the day's program by Centers for Knowledge Sovereignty, CKS. CKS is an established think tank and has been spreading awareness about data sovereignty and cybersecurity at strategic, political, and national levels. CKS is non-partisan, nationalistic think tank, which has been spreading intellectual content with focus on the spheres of technology, public policy, and research. CKS is honored and privileged to host from our platform series of 5 webinars general. First in our series, we are honored and privileged to have today Lieutenant General PR Shankar, PVSM, AVSM, BSM retired, former Director General of Artillery, Sir and ex-MBA, is also alumni of prestigious Defence Services Staff College, Wellington, Naval Postgraduate School, Monterey, and National Defence College, New Delhi. He has held many important command, staff, and instructional appointments and has vast operational excellence of serving in all kinds of terrain and operational situations, including counterinsurgency. He gave great impetus to the indigenization and modernization of artillery and was instrumental in induction of guns like Dhanush, M777 ULH, Sarang, and K9 Vajra, as also the Pinaka, BrahMos, and the Grad BM21 system. His deep understanding of defense planning and acquisition helped him to ensure that deficiencies in artillery ammunition were made up and systems were put in place. He worked under late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, Lieutenant General VJ Sundaram, and Dr. VK Saraswat, member Niti Ayog, in DRDL Hyderabad in the 80s, during the initial development of the Agni and Prithvi missile system. He was a member of a committee to evolve the long-term technology perspective plan of the DRDO. Presently, General Officer is a professor in the Aerospace Department of the Indian Institute of Technology, Chennai, and is actively involved in applied research. He also advises the Tamil Nadu government in the development of defense corridor and has written over 250 articles on strategic affairs, defense planning, and defense technology. He is a member of the Chennai Center of China Studies and has co-founded CASA, a virtual think tank on current and strategic affairs. His articles are widely read on www.gunnershot.com. Now, I request Air Vice Marshal Pranay Sinha VSM retired, moderator of the session, to take the program further. Viewers, AVM Pranay Sinha retired in September 2018 from prestigious Software Development Institute of IAF in Bengaluru, and since then is working as advisor to Bharat Electronics Limited. He is an active member of our think tank, and for the information of all, he has done masters from IIT Kanpur. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, viewers, and thanks, Dr. Deepa Prakash, for that marching order to proceed further in the lighter vein. By the way, you all must be aware that army marches on its belly. So said the Napoleon in 1862, and to ensure that stomach of armed forces is satisfactorily filled, irrespective of the terrain and location, there comes the expertise and the knowledge of combat ration experts like Dr. Deepa Prakash. Yes, she is an ex-CSIR scientist from Central Food Technological Research Institute and trained at Defense Research Lab, Mysuru. And before I invite General Shankar for today's talk, 2-point viewers, today's webinar is the first of the series of 5 talk series, Thus Spake Generals. And tomorrow we'll have General Kulkarni. And thereafter, every Sunday, we are having one more general. After Kulkarni, General Hasnain will be there. Then Admiral is going to come. And last, not the least, Air Marshal will be addressing this forum. Another request that please post your question in the chat box. Though technologically, now I am operating with the iPhone. We'll see how we can best accommodate depending on time and the technology available with us. And sir, now the Indo-Pacific Ocean is ready to take your gunshot. Over to you, General Shankar, sir.
Thanks a lot, Air Vice Marshal Sinha. Thanks a lot, Dr. Deepa Prakash, for your kind introduction. And I also thank the Center for Knowledge Sovereignty for having invited me over this evening. And I thank each and every one of you to have made it to be able to attend today evening. We are living through testing times in life. All of us are fortunate or unfortunate enough to face something unprecedented in our lives before this, and it might not come again in the next century. Every century, the world has faced a cataclysmic event and a turn of events, and this is one of them. Right? It is in this context that we should see this entire thing. As much as the world is facing a issue, and I think India is also facing a critical moment in its postmodern history. But be that as it may, uh, I'll give across to you my views of the Indo-Pacific and the Quad as they are evolving. I'll put across a presentation to you, and I'll be more than happy to take your views. In this presentation, uh, I will be absolutely clinical about the real story which is happening all around, and then we'll take it from there and how it is, right? So, pardon me if I'm a bit critical about India also, because you don't get the real flavor unless you are honest to yourself. With this, I'll put my presentation up. Yeah, kindly confirm all of you can see it. Anyone?
Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
I'll talk to you about the quadratic equations of the Indo-Pacific. I've written about it. I've written about 6, 7 articles on the Quad. I've discussed this issue of Quad with the people across the world, USA, Japan, Australia, London, with a few other think tanks. And these are my distilled thoughts based on that. We all know that the center of gravity of international geopolitics and geoeconomics has shifted into the Indo-Pacific irrevocably. Right. Now, this is what Mr. Campbell had to say. Kurt Campbell is the recently appointed coordinator for the Indo-Pacific region and of the Biden administration. He says the period that was broadly described as engagement has come to an end with China. There's no more engagement. Beijing's recent exploits indicate a pivot towards harsh power or hard power and signals that China is determined to play a more assertive role, right? I will put it this way, it is no more assertive, I think it's gone aggressive. USA is devising a new set of strategic parameters and the dominant paradigm is going to be competition. Look, this is what I read today. Okay, this is an analysis where Kurt Campbell was quoted, and as per American thinking now, America is back. It's going to take on China square. Gone are the Trump days of prevarication. They feel across bipartisan, across the divide, they're going to take on China with whatever set of strategic tools they have at their disposal. Quad is a very important and probably one of the main tools USA's quiver. The danger is Quad should not become a USA's tool, it should become the tool of the Quad itself. Now, when you look at the Indo-Pacific area, all the major populations are there, more than 1/3 of the humanity. 8 of the top 10, 20 economies, span this expanse. You have the biggest defense spenders in this area. Surprisingly, many major disasters have happened in this area. This is where the action is. This is where the conflict is. Now, what are the challenges of the Indo-Pacific? If you look at it, there are two main challenges which dominate scene. It is the pandemic, which is going to last for at least 5 to 10 years from now. If not the pandemic, the after effects and the aftershocks of the pandemic will continue. There's no doubt about it. Now, the China's rise, assertion, and violation of rules-based order. These are the two major challenges which we have to tackle as when you talk of Indo-Pacific. What are the major issues? The challenges are fine. What are the issues? In the north, you have a nuclear triangle of India, China, and Pakistan, locked in combat with each other, with India in the center. Middle East, you have terror, energy, resources. That's the model out there. Those are the major issues out there. And if I may add, fundamentalism. In the Asia Pacific region or the Western Pacific, you have Chinese assertion increasingly. And of course, the vast expanse of Indo-Pacific has its own maritime security issues. Now, what are the hotspots in this area? You have Israel-Palestine, which is ongoing. Afghanistan, a vacuum being created with USA running out of the area, and it's going to destabilize this area quite a bit. And those of you who lived through and analyzed the 80s of Afghanistan, you'll see that things are not going to go well in this area. Of course, Myanmar, if you have a look at it, is in the center of Indo-Pacific. Myanmar is the key for China to operationalize its two ocean strategy, right? And that's in turmoil. And it's our immediate neighbor. It's the only ASEAN country with which India shares a border. It's the only country through which China can prosecute ops into our northeast without being in high altitude. That's a very critical area for the Indo-Pacific. If Myanmar goes the wrong way, the Indo-Pacific dream will collapse. Let me assure you this. And I'm afraid the Indo-Pacific is not doing enough for it. Then you have the paracels. China has gobbled up the Sprattleys. Now it has shifted its eyes on the paracels. And of course, it's opened a new front with this in the Senkakus. Now, if you look at all these five hotspots, you find that one country or the other of the Quad is always there. USA and India willy-nilly have interests all across. And the concept, which is probably a misnomer and poorly understood, is that Indo-Pacific is only this part of the whole story. No, everything is part of Indo-Pacific. And unless we get that right, nothing will go forward. Last year, if you had asked, why should India get into the Indo-Pacific? The common thinking was, oh, Indo-Pacific means we go into South China Sea and show our flag there. I don't think that is there. And the larger understanding which I have got across people is that all these issues affect Indo-Pacific issues. How this will, going ahead, how this will, fructify is the interesting thing, because the Quad itself is in a state of flux at this point of time. That will come a little later. Now, in this entire mix, where do you see China? China was assertive the whole of last year. This year, it is aggressive. And what we are going to see is a more aggressive China. There's a story that China is on an economic recovery. But understand, it is not the economic recovery of the 90s or the first decade of this century, where China was galloping at double-digit growth. No, even before the virus set in, China had started slowing down. So where will China go? China will just get back to that growth. It's not going to go ahead. And one should not make the mistake of seeing China in the small prism of 1 to 2 years. Everyone says China looks at the long term. So should we. The pandemic is still going to hound China. It's not out. Just because that news doesn't filter out from China, just because they've been able to control certain issues in China of casualties and widespread infections, they are still at risk. The vaccines are not good enough. That's proven. The mutations are getting worse. Just think for 1 minute. Look at USA. With their technology and whatever it is, they are coming out of the pandemic. And it is expected that after August, USA will return to normal. They have already their economy has started growing by 1% in the last quarter. 2% for USA is great, a boom time. So there is something else happening. Look at our own case. We are going through we are one of the worst countries hit by the pandemic. But we are burning through this. We'll pay a heavy price, there's no doubt. The ineptness of many of our governments and our politicians will make it a very costly price for us to pay. But we would have paid it. 2 months hence, we might be at herd immunity. Even if the third wave comes and even if you falter, after that, you're out of it. But that's not the case with China. China is still open to everything. So China has to be cautious in its approach henceforth. That's the point, right? That's why I said I'm being very cold about the whole story. There's an aging and shrinking population of China. Many estimates say that China's population is already less than India. Their workforce has reduced. Their old age dependencies have increased, which means that China has to spend more on its old people. And the labor cost, the labor advantage which China had is gone. That's gone. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Going further, there are huge limits to where China can go. And if China's military assertion goes the same way, the questions will come in the next 3 to 4 years. Will they be able to fund it? Will China be able to, its economy, will it be able to sustain? Okay. Now you combine what I'm trying to say now with what the American outlook is. America is determined that China will be a contestant or a competitor, no more an engagement process. Take into account, USA has had problems galore in the last 2 centuries. And every time it has come back, whether you call it the Depression, Pearl Harbor, Twin Towers coming down, the 2008 subprime crisis. Every time America was on the verge of collapse, it has fought back. It has got tremendous restitution capability. China is untested in this. Can China, hold this if it suffers a setback? Is a big question mark. So that is why there are huge limits on China's growth, in my view. I mean, many people view it differently, but this is the way I view it. And I'll back it up with logic. Of course, their aggression is very evident in Paracels and Senkaku, which I've said. They've adopted a very hostile attitude towards Australia, and now they're going about coercing Bangladesh and Sri Lanka not to join the Quad. They're worried. And my interaction with people from Taiwan and Japan indicates to me that if China is worried about anything today, it is Quad. There's an aggression against the Quad. There is a influence operations against the Quad, but they're worried about the Quad. And that is what we need to exploit. Okay. Now, let me go back into time and give you a brief idea of the evolution of Quad 3.0. I call it Quad 3.0 because Quad has come about in 3 phases, and understanding this is important to take it forward. Quad 1.0 is the time when tsunami took place. That was when the 4 navies got together without any understanding before this to cooperate and come to help humanity in this region. The important thing is, even then, China didn't help. This is something fundamental which people have to understand as to why Quad is evolving the way it is evolving. Right, of course, when you look at Quad 2.0, why did it come about? The first indication of Quad coming about came in Doklam. And when people started in around 2017, when BRI it was recognized as a strategic concept, right, and not as a trade concept. And that was the time when people started realizing handling China is beyond any regional nation, and it is too big for any one nation. And that was the time when this concept of free and open Indian nation started crystallizing. What does it mean to be free and open in the Indian nation, where China does not rule the roost and does not lay down its rules? Last year, the pandemic and the Chinese aggression, whether you call it in the South China Sea or in Eastern Ladakh or elsewhere, wherever it wanted to flex its muscles, have galvanized everyone to say, let's have Quad going. And this came about in the last phases of the Trump administration, when the Quad ministerial meeting was held in Tokyo, when our own external affairs minister went and discussed the whole affair. That was the first time the ministers met. And that was the first time when the word Quad entered the lexicon of Quad. Till then, it was never called Quad. Okay. And now, of course, if you look at Quad 3.0, right, you see that February, the moment one of the first things the Biden administration did was to hold a ministerial meet. And in March, we had the Quad summit, where all the 4 chief executives of our countries or leaders and put across a few issues that we'll talk. Never in my life, again, have I seen a formulation being put in such double quick time. So that is the important thing one needs to understand in this. Okay, let's look at the Quad countries and see what is their attitude to China, because that informs us as to how we will have to deal with China. Let's look at the top. Japan. Japan is on the horns of a dilemma because it's got tremendous trade interaction with China. And of course, it's got a problem on the seas with the Senkakus. Okay. And its major dilemma is that it is bound by its own law that it can't go offensive. So that is the problem with, Japan. Australia, again in the horns of a dilemma because Australia is largely a trading nation. Okay. I mean, its Australian population probably is lesser than even Tamil Nadu. All right, so it's a huge nation, but it's a trading nation, and that trade has been hit. And in the past 1 year, ever since Australia has taken the lead, that look, we should have a inquiry into the origin of the Wuhan virus. China has been very hostile towards Australia. It is only now Australia has stood the course for 1 year in its idea that this has to be investigated. It is only now that USA has joined Australia and is standing by its side. And then, of course, EU and everyone else is coming into the fray, right? Now, when you look at the USA, like I said earlier, there is a recovery process on, and there is US Sino-US relationship is going into the contestation mode. Let's not have any doubt about it. When you look at India, I mean, we should never have a doubt anymore that China is our adversary. Till last time we pussyfooted around, right? Till last year. But the way they have gone about dehumanizing the way our suffering, our misery, whether it's that our graves on one side being pious lit with the rocket show, or the way the macabre videos of dead bodies floating in Ganga are going viral in China through the CCP, we should have no doubts that they are our adversary. But then we also have to understand that we are also going through our own set of weaknesses. In my view, like I said, we are on a precipice. Vaccination, economy, the way we've handled the virus, X, Y, Z. I mean, I'll not go into it because this is not the subject. Unless our leadership comes up around, we are in great trouble. Okay, leave that as it may. Let's look at the Quad potential. What is the potential of the Quad? First, as far as leadership is concerned, we are talking of three middle-level powers headed by a superpower, right? All are vibrant democracies. All have gone through problems, and there's no democracy which doesn't go through a problem. So even whatever is going on in a country is part of a democratic process. And we are talking of three civilizations: the Western, Japanese, and Indian civilizations, and their ideas which come onto it. When you look at the diplomatic potential, there are existing strategic and alliance relationships between all four countries of the Quad. In terms of security, there are the most experienced armed forces, and we have the capability of the perfect two-front strategy. What two-front strategy? If India holds China or confronts China along the eastern Ladakh, and if USA and the other three hold or confront China in the Western Pacific, China is split. Many people say, look, this is not a great thing that they've come to eastern Ladakh. I don't agree with it. China has bought a huge chunk of trouble by confronting us in eastern Ladakh. Just think, they now have to commit forces there in perpetuity, and they're already doing it. And that forces are not available for China elsewhere. It's already there's a speed bump, a roadblock which has come up for China, and their vulnerabilities have been exposed militarily. Okay. Now, when you look at the economic strength of the Quad, we are the four of the top 20 economies of the world. You look at the healthy mixture of raw material, manufacturing, and consumer power, and tremendous innovation capability which is there with this. And in terms of health, you have the R&D and the production capability and the ability to handle climate change. The potential is huge. Okay. Besides this, who are the others who are knocking at the doors of the Quad? France, UK, Germany, and EU, which are from the West, they have already indicated that they'll align with the Quad. Okay. Now, when you look at the East, ASEAN is split. They don't know which way to go. And there is already talk of Quad Plus, New Zealand, Vietnam, and South Korea. And then, of course, South Asia. I mean, will eventually, because all these South Asian countries, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, all these countries are all democracies, right? They might be ambivalent today, but eventually they will swing towards the Quad. Okay, should Quad expand? I don't think so. Why? Yeah, on an issue-based thing, we can look at taking other countries, but the idea has to be that Quad should continue to be lean and mean. It cannot become heavy and lumbersome, because many more people come in, their views have to be accommodated, and there'll be a dilution of the overall idea. We need to have an issue-based approach with Quad as the base. If Quad can give a platform, it's great. Why am I talking of France, UK, and UK? These two are important because they have sovereign territories in the Indo-Pacific region, and they get threatened by China. And of course, the Quad Plus countries and the Asia Pacific region, they are affected by China and its aggression directly. So we really taking all of them might be a problem, but taking some of them on an issue-based approach is the way forward. Okay, when you look at the Quad has had diplomatic interactions, one-to-one, bilateral, trilateral, and as a Quad from long. I've just listed it out in this slide from where all we have gone through. The Quad has had long list of military interactions right from 2015. In fact, we had the first Malabar in which Singapore and Australia also joined that. Today we had last year when the Malabar exercise was held, there was a second Malabar where all the navies took part. Okay. But the more important thing is the non-security aspects which have come about. When you talk of climate change, infrastructure, supply chain resilience, cyber and critical technologies, education and human resource development, and response to the COVID-19 pandemic, right? Now, these are the areas which have opened up. Okay. But then Quad has its problems. We have to understand the problems of Quad. Quad has a what I call a odd one out phenomenon. Japan, Australia, and USA are rich nations per capita wise. India is a poor nation. USA, India, and Japan have military disputes with China on some basis or the other. Whereas the dispute with Australia is more economic. So why am I putting this odd one out phenomenon? Because the viewpoints of Quad on many issues will be contentious. Quad has to resolve it within itself. USA, India, and Australia have no military restrictions to engaging China. But Japan can only take up arms in self-defense. It has got its self-defense law. USA, Australia, and Japan are more Pacific Ocean focused, whereas India is more Indian Ocean focused with the land border. We are the only nation with such a big land border with China and a disputed land border. USA is an extra regional player, whereas the others are intra regional players. But then everyone has a deep relationship with China at some point or the other, either through the RCP or some form of the other. So these contradictions are something which Quad has to look at, right? We'll see what are the pathways to the Quad? The normal thinking and which China has been propagating that Quad will be a Indo-Pacific NATO kind of an alliance, because then, that's the basic fundamental on which it has come. The basic brick on which the Quad has been built is military oblique diplomatic. We've had 2+2 dialogues, Malabar. Army and Navy and Air Force have been doing great exercises with each other. We've been participating in HIDR, that is humanitarian assistance and disaster relief operations, counterterrorism, and maritime security. But that's the worst route to go through, right? It raises China's hackles, and we don't get a clarity as to how we will help each other militarily, because that is a issue. How far will Quad go to help each other militarily? And does it need to go to help each other militarily? There are issues in this. And we have to remember that, in this, India is on a very strong wicket. India is the only country which has handled China militarily. You go back, barring 1962, you look at 1967, look at Doklam, and look at Eastern Ladakh. We are the only country which has given China a bloody nose. Many people will contend whatever they want. On the battlefield, this great figure of Chinese construct of comprehensive national figure doesn't count. It is man to man, bayonet to bayonet. And China knows that well. And that is why they've backed off. And in Eastern Ladakh, China might have 10 times our force capability. But in that given space, you can only entertain that much. In any room, there's a capacity to entertain only that many people and that many forces. And India can match China in that respect. Right. That's a great thing, and that has not vanished, virus or no virus. When you look at the old economy, we could go to the SCRI, the MRO facilities being put up here. You could talk of manufacturing, relocation, trade, and all that. But these are contentious issues. India and Australia have always looked at opposite directions when it came to trade. We've had our issues with USA. It's even now we are not very comfortable with the way opening up our markets. Everyone says open up, open up, open up. What happens to our poor, right? What happens to our marginal farmers? They'll all go out of contention, right? India can only open up that much, and India has to open up slowly. And after this event, whether India should open up is a big question, which we have to really honestly think. Can we afford to open our marginal farmers to the vagaries of international competition? Difficult. It doesn't matter which government comes into play. And I've seen this logic right from the days when Nehru was alive. That's why we never opened up. Okay. So the old economy is full of pitfalls. Whether we will go through that old economy route is difficult. But the new horizons hold promise. You can talk of health. You can talk of vaccines. You can talk of space. New frontiers where full cooperation is feasible. Cyber, 5G, AI, robotics, soft power, all this, rare earth, semiconductors, talk of whatever you want. And here India is strong. Again, those of you who are listening to this, don't focus on this 2 months which have gone through or the past 1 year which has gone through. India's fundamental strengths won't vanish. Our government has to get its act together, right? Okay, now the Quad leaders, they met and they gave a joint statement called the Spirit of the Quad. Now, if you analyze it, there's a lot of ambition in this. It's pretty concrete and direct. What have they said? They're committed to promoting a free, open, rules-based order rooted in international law to advance security and prosperity and counter threats to both in the Indo-Pacific and beyond. So they have opened the area beyond Indo-Pacific. So it's going to be a long-standing issue. You're going to respond to the economic and health impacts of COVID, climate change, shared challenges. They've all put all this together, which we spoke of. They've also said very clearly, experts and senior officials will continue to meet regularly. That is, our foreign ministers will converse often, meet at least once in a year, which has never happened. So that means there's a formality coming into Quad that foreign ministers will hereafter meet every year. There'll be a foreign minister summit. At the leader level, we will hold an in-person summit by end of 2021. This was only a virtual summit, but now you're going to have by, next year, depending on how things go, there will be a summit and formalization. We are talking already of a Quad partnership, working group, all this. So there is a formalization of the Quad which is happening, which will happen. And as Quad starts formalizing, their internal issues will resolve itself and the external issues will take over. And whether we like it or not, China will react to this. It's a matter of time. Like every action has to have an opposite reaction. And if you read the article in Washington Post, which was co-authored by the President Biden, Prime Minister Modi, Prime Minister Scott Morrison, and Prime Minister Suga, they've said our 4 nations are committed to a free, open, secure, and prosperous Indo-Pacific region. Well, they largely reiterated whatever was said in the joint statement. But what is more significant to me, at least in my lifetime, I've never seen 4 leaders give out an op-ed in Washington Post, or for that matter, any literature. From my side, they could have put it on a piece of toilet paper and put it. But it's the power of the 4 leaders putting it across. It's not the form which matters. It's the substance which matters. That's a great message, right? And that at almost the first half of each of their tenures. So there's a continuity factor which is going to come in, right? Quad has passed the first test in helping India. Quad will be effective only if it is healthy. If one of these nations go down, Quad will go down. And India, we've gone through a crisis. I mean, one of the biggest crises I've seen in my life. And every member of the Quad has come forth to help it. So I feel from a Quad perspective, things are okay. But let's look at it from an India point of view. From where we are, you look at it realistically, 1 month back, we were probably one of the strongest proponents of the Quad and the strongest pillars of the Quad. Suddenly we weakened. We've lost a lot of political capital, lost a lot of issues. At this point of time, and from here on, we have no choice but to go with the Quad. Maybe 2 months back, 3 months back, I could have said, okay, should we go with the Quad, no Quad? That's a different story. But hereafter, Quad is the way. Our challenge will be to how do you balance out Russia? That's a challenge, that's a diplomatic challenge. But I think we can use our soft power in this. Why soft power? I must tell you this. At a point of time, about 8-10 years back, I went to Kazakhstan and as part of the National Defense College. And there was this girl, a Russian girl who was our, liaison officer, settled in Kazakhstan. Her name was Indra. So I said, why Indra? At that point of time, every second girl who was born in Russia was named Indra after Indira Gandhi. So this kind of a soft power will not vanish overnight. People to people thinking, okay? So that is something which we have to leverage to handle Russia. Because our domestic politics will be an issue. And our recovery from the pandemic. How can we handle our economy? Already there is talk of, direct cash transfer, X, Y, Z, print more money and all that. That's a very dangerous route. It puts us on the edge. If our politics, I won't say politics, if our execution of printing more money goes the vaccination route, we are in great trouble, right? One has to have a balanced approach. and to pull us out of this own equation. And a large part of where we go from here depends on how we recover economically. Do we have the potential to do so? There is never a doubt. You can't keep a country of 1.4 billion out of the equation internationally. The only person who can keep it out internationally is us. Let me be very honest with ourselves. Okay, where do you look ahead as Quad? We have to call out on Xinjiang and Tibet. We have to get together to call out on the virus origin, and this is where India has to get its act together. What is your issue? What is your hesitation in calling out China? I understand there are issues. We are still dependent economically on, I wouldn't say economic, commercially on China. There are investments. Well, our pharmaceutical sector will get hit very badly if we, go against China. The way Australia is suffering. Right? Militarily, I'm not bothered, to be very honest. There are other issues. Okay. But at some point of time, we need to have a plan to say, look, China, keep quiet. Though we have done it in our own way and China has responded in their own way, okay, of not naming each other, let's be very clear. Going ahead, China will start naming India. Then we have to be prepared to name it back. You have to induce military overstretch into China. Like I said, put it in a constant two-front equation. Don't allow it to develop bases. There are huge instabilities and contradictions in China. Okay, I've written an article on this. What are the strategic instabilities of China which we need to, and what are there are 6 strategies which you can adopt against China. Economic diversion is one thing. You reduce, in my opinion, you reduce Chinese trade. We can't wish away China and its manufacturing capability. It's there. It's a gorilla in the room. But if you can reduce it by 5 to 10%, China will start behaving normally. That's my view. You don't need to do much. Just 5 to 10% of trade diversion through relocation X, Y, Z, and there'll be this. Then, of course, technology and market denial. You deny your market. If there is no other country which denied their apps to China except India, and it took China because China didn't expect that to happen at all. Now you've given everyone a model how to handle China, and that itself has softened China. But then China is China; they're not going to learn so easily. They are a technology deficient nation. I mean, I am making this very clearly. There are some aspects of technology they're very good, but their food technology is not there. Sorry, vaccine technology is not there. There are many technologies they're not there. वो बोलते हैं ना, चाइना का माल चला तो चांदनी चौक तक, नहीं तो चांद तक, or whichever way it is. So there are huge question marks on technology. Any technology denial regime will get China down. And then, of course, loss of face. China looks small. With this, I have come to the end of my talk, and I'm prepared to take on any questions you have. Anyway, thank you. Thanks a lot for listening to this talk of mine.
So thanks for the excellent and detailed, informative talks. And before I take on a few questions, let me recapture what you said, sir, or my thoughts. By the way, viewers, you all know Professor of IT have penchant for asking things in mathematical terms. And here, Professor of Aerospace Department of IT, Chennai, General Shankar, also has written the quadratic equation for Indo-Pacific. Let us see how I can fit this in one of the slides. By the way, quadratic equation is of the order of ax square plus bx plus c, where x is an unknown odd man and rest a, b, c are common numbers. And together, all these entities, that means all these 4 vibrant democracies of the world is attempting to reduce the China's emerging rising power to 0. If not 0, at least we are trying to contain it. That is what ax square plus bx plus c sir wants to convey, probably. An interesting thing what sir has brought out is that in this grouping of 4, one is odd man out, x, that x factor. That means, say, Australia and say US, Japan, India are militarily having disputes with the China, whereas Australia has economic disputes. Or say the 3 countries are Pacific oriented, US, Japan, and Australia. We are Indian Ocean oriented. So this contradiction will remain, the perception will differ, and this X factor is what the China will try to exploit. And in the concluding statement, Sir also said that this X factor we also should apply. The Bhed has to be applied. Call out Xinjiang, call out virus, call out Tibet issue. Very, very loud and clear. And one more interesting thing of this AX square plus BX plus C, if you draw the graph, it's always a parabola. Any equation always will parabola. That means this quad came, sir, in 2004 to address tsunami issue, then 2007 Malabar, and then graph came crashing down and start rising again to 2017 when they came with the again against the China's aggressive behavior, 2020, and so the U shape has formed, and hope once again the executive meeting which is going to be due in this year, we get another op-ed declaring that we are ready to take on the China. Thank you, sir. Thanks a ton. Wonderful. Enjoyed every bit. So we'll take 2-3 questions. We have got 10 minutes for that, sir. So the questions, 2-3 people have asked in a different fashion. Mr. Dharamveer, Mr. Piyush Saxena, Mr. Swankant, all are saying that China is seducing by supplying military equipment to Bangladesh, to Thailand, to Myanmar, all our neighboring countries. How do we tackle this from Quad perspective?
See, that's a genuine question. The first thing is Quad doesn't have a perspective on Myanmar. That's a problem. Quad doesn't have a perspective as it on regional, our neighbors. So in this, I think it is incumbent upon India and US who have interests in this area to reach out to our neighbors and stop this. But I feel there's a larger thing. As far as our neighbors like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Myanmar or Afghanistan also, I'll include Afghanistan also, we have to be clear about it. There's nothing Quad needs to do to help them out. If we can tie them up with better military ties, we can keep China out. And I'm telling this with a lot of responsibility. I have sent officers to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, in their war against LTT, a decade back, 2 decades back, they used a lot of Chinese equipment and Pakistani equipment. And after that, they have not been helped out by China and Pakistan. That equipment is degrading. They have reached out to us many times. Can you help us? I don't know for what reason we have not been equipping them. Myanmar, there's so much scope to help Myanmar out militarily. The Myanmari military, the Tatmadaw, has immense respect for the Indian military. I can tell you this with a lot of authority. And there's a historical connect of the Burma campaign, which was fought there. Again, we have not exploited that. In my way of looking at it, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, and Myanmar should be holding Indian equipment, not Chinese equipment. And we need to gear up accordingly. And as we modernize, the thing is, it's not a great deal. As we modernize, we will have a lot of our equipment, which we will have a generation old but sturdy equipment. We can equip them because their security requirements don't need the kind we need. Their navies should be part of our an extension of our navies. I think we have to think differently. It doesn't cost much. It costs.
Sir, another interesting question has come. Again, a lot of people have asked in a different form and different way how much we can trust Biden versus Trump, and how do we tackle Russia. You said soft power the way, but they want some diplomatic answer. Piyush, Saurabh, Mr. Dharamveer, and many people, sir.
See, in the world of international politics, you don't trust anyone except yourself. Let's be very clear. First, no one is coming to give you a free lunch, including Biden, Trump. Neither did Trump come for a free lunch, nor has Biden come for a free lunch. Okay. Nor has Russia come for a free lunch. The days of USSR are gone. And this is my firm belief, mind you. And this is one of the reasons why some of my beliefs, I must tell you this, come from the fact that in my service, I have veered away from being either Russian or US oriented. If you analyze, I don't know if I can get a chance to talk to some of you, the way I have developed artillery today, and this is current, it is indigenous. It in fact is the most indigenous arm of the Indian Armed Forces. And I say it with a lot of pride. We have all the technology, we have put everything, our missile forces, our guns, our ammunition, everything. We are self-sufficient. We don't have to look anywhere for this thing. We are veered away from everyone. Once you veer away from everyone and you have the strength to do what you want to do, then everyone will come to you. Then you talk to them on equal footing. And I am of the firm opinion we have to stand on our own strength. No, don't trust anyone. Issue based, time based, interest based. If needed, sleep with the devil. It doesn't
Thank you,
matter.
sir. Time based, we are running out of time, sir. What I will do, sir, I will forward some questions to you,
Yeah.
and you may forward the answer, because a
No
lot of
issue.
questions on how to tackle China and how to do this.
Yeah.
By the way, viewers, we are going to hear tomorrow General Kulkarni, who will be talking what is the way ahead for the China's standoff. But definitely, sir, we enjoyed every bit of it. I will now ask Sri Vinit Goenkaji, the main tank behind our think tank. He's an ardent champion of sovereignty who has authored the book on data sovereignty, pursuit of supremacy. He is governing council member of Center CRIS and former task force member of IT shipping. This thing he has done a lot of digitization. All the toll plaza you are not paying or paying whatever the money is credited to Viniji. Over to you, Viniji.
Thank you. Thank you, AVM Sinha. Lieutenant General Shankar, let me tell you, it's eye-opening and I learned a lot.
Oh, welcome.
And
Anytime.
I was supposed to
We are
speak
all
only two
learning.
lines, but if you permit me, sir,
Yeah.
I can speak 6, 7 lines with your permission. Generally, you actually left me speechless because when I was listening to a gunner, I thought artillery gunner and the strategic non-kinetic talk in the quad area, how will it go? And by the time the talk was evolving, and I thought, ki, today this is an era of non-kinetic warfare, where the noise of the guns make less noise than the noise of the social media, which buzzes the entire space every in and out 24 by 365. What do you see? So in this era, geopolitics takes the priority over the borders which you see and the action where then. Earlier days, it was very happy days. There was action on the border, but the interior was very peaceful because the action was never translated to the interior. But here, things happen, and in a minute, you see actual video of what is happening there on the border. And I think that geopolitics needs a lot of support. And before this, maybe probably because we all come from that same community, maybe we heard quad, but most of the people who will now see this video when it goes on Facebook or YouTube and this thing, they were wondering what is quad. And probably none of them actually thought that quadratic equations of the Indo-Pacific will mean so much for a person sitting in India right now. And Lieutenant General Shankar, you opened our eyes. Many of the words were new to us. Let me tell you this August gathering here, who's listening to you. I have my guru and my co-author, Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, former DGMO SF. He's an illuminary like you, who the country is. We have with us Colonel Ganeshan. We have Wing Commander Shetty here. We have people from Nick. Dr. Bera is there. I can also see Farooq Qazi's name here, and there are other people who have been writing the destiny of this country very nicely in this particular space. Of course, I cannot forget to mention Dr. Nagaratna and Dr. Deepa. Sir, I'm very, very confident the members of CKS and also the audience who heard you today go back knowledgeable. They what they say, Astuma Sadgoma, the darkness in their knowledge has reduced with listening to your particular speech on this particular part. And I also go back, if you permit, CKS would like to have the presentation and we'd like to put this on our website and maybe share with the strategic community. Sir, we have in this right now, we have people from artillery, we have people from SF, we have people from infantry. Yes, of course, Deepa is there. So we have people who think about food. We have SDFI with Pranay Sinha coming in, the person who actually taught us how to use software to defend ourselves. And there are many other people, and also we have people from intellectual community. Maybe we are in small number, but Dharma is there. We 2, 3, 4 people are coming from that particular space. So I think probably that gives us a lot of insight. I would request Dr. Nagaratna, a legal illuminary who helps us formulate our policies. And in fact, like AVM Sinha and Dr. Deepa, she leads it. I, though, in fact, am a visiting faculty who comes here sometimes when there is a speech. Honestly, I have a very less role to play, and I can't think like these three trio who do it. So before I hand it over to Dr. Nagaratna, I would like to thank you on behalf of Lieutenant General DB Shekatkar, Lieutenant General Venkatesh Patil, who are the founders of this particular think tank. Unfortunately, Lieutenant General Patil lost his wife and so chose not to come. Otherwise, General is there to thank everybody who speak. Even at this age, both of them are very active and they have blessed me throughout my career. So I would request Dr. Nagaratna to give you a formal thank. But General, this before she gives you a formal thank, I would like to thank you from everybody who's listening to you.
Welcome
Everybody.
anytime. I've enjoyed talking. I
It
hope.
was a fantastic talk.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Dr. Nagaratna, over to you.
Thank you, sir. A very good morning, good evening to one and all. I am pleased to deliver this formal vote of thanks during this event. Indo-Pacific region's importance for India is immense, and it's not just limited for its trade and prosperity related concerns, but is also of immense importance for our security reasons. Lieutenant General PR Shankar's today's talk has provided us a very clear view of the issues that affects our concerns in relation to this region. I quote our Indian Foreign Minister, Shri S. Shankar, who had recently said in the context of China being a challenging neighbor for India, I quote, when it comes to us, we need to ask ourselves, so we have this neighbor who has done spectacularly well. So do we just stand there with our hands in our pocket and marvel at what they have done? Or do we say this is an inspiration? I need to also strengthen my competitiveness and my capabilities and so on. I unquote. Today's theme of the talk being related to international stance of India, especially in the Indo-Pacific sphere, with Lieutenant General PR Shankar's hard-hitting and transparent revelations on the matters that must be considered by India in designing our security strategies and the strategies that are essential to maintain our international relations was very apt, timely, and extremely informative. I, on behalf of Center of Knowledge Sovereignty and each of the participants of today's event, thank our esteemed speaker, Lieutenant General PR Shankar Sirji. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
I also
Thanks.
thank our CKS organizing team, most importantly, Shri AVM Sinha sir, Shri Vinit Goenka sir, and Mr. Paresh. Thank you so much. Most importantly, I thank all our esteemed participants for your valued participation. Thank you one and all. With the kind permission of the speaker and all the participants, I request to close the call. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thanks a lot.
Please
Thank
tune
you.
it tomorrow, 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. Thank you. Thank you, viewers.
Thanks a lot.
Let the audience know,
Thanks.
General Kulkarni, then Colonel Kulkarni had a lot of role there in Siachen. So I think everybody will be excited. Like today, they were excited to listen to General Shankar. They should be there tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Thank you, Sir Jain, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Jai Hind.